Hi, my name is Eric McCabe, and I teach trauma-centered, trauma-sensitive yoga. And I'd like to share just briefly a little bit about who I am. I live in Ames, Iowa with my wife and our son, and I do several things. One of them includes teaching yoga for trauma at Broadlawns Medical Center in Des Moines. And I've been doing that for about a little bit over 4 years. I moved to Iowa about 5 years ago from the East Coast, from Pennsylvania. And prior to coming to Iowa and teaching trauma-sensitive yoga, as well as I teach world religions at Des Moines Area Community College at the Ankeny campus. And prior to doing that, I lived at a Zen temple where I studied Zen Buddhism and particularly Buddhist forms of meditation for about 15 years. And so that experience of training in a meditation center has informed me greatly on how I offer trauma-sensitive yoga, but also the training that I've had in trauma-sensitive yoga, yoga that's particularly for trauma. So while I was in Pennsylvania, I had the opportunity to teach yoga and meditation at a drug and alcohol rehab. And I did that for about 3 years. And I found that in doing that, this is in 2010 to 2013. And while I was doing that, I learned how some of the practices that I had been studying for so many years were really beneficial, especially for people in recovery. And I thought, wow, I need to be able to offer this more. People are saying they feel so much better. Why aren't we doing this every day? And so that was my initial entrance point into offering these kind of mindfulness teachings for people with addictions, with mental health issues. I myself come from a background of having experimented with drugs and alcohol. And while I don't have some of the perhaps more extreme cases that I meet, I understand the pull of addiction. And I've found it's thanks to studying meditation that I think probably saved me from going deeper down the road of addiction myself. So I want to be able to share these practices, and that's why I do this. When I left the temple setting that I was living at, I worked in a behavioral health ward in a hospital in Pennsylvania at WellSpan Hospital. And so I worked in a behavioral health center for about a year, administering to the spiritual needs of the patients that I was working with there. And one of the things that I really, I enjoyed that kind of work immensely. It gave me a great deal of satisfaction. But I also felt that it lacked that physical dimension that's required in healing. So it's wonderful to be able to talk about I mean, I shouldn't say wonderful. It can be extraordinarily challenging, actually, to talk about one's trauma. And in fact, trauma-sensitive yoga is not about talking about trauma. It's about being in our physical body. And instead of telling somebody your story, we're using our body as a means to work with the trauma. And that has benefits, especially working with trauma, that often traumatic memories don't go through the same memory channels as, say, ordinary non-traumatic memories do. And so it might be very challenging, very difficult to talk about trauma to anyone. So we bypass that by working with our physical body. And so when I worked as a chaplain, this is one of the things I felt was really missing is kind of grounding and rooting inside our body, because we can talk a lot, we can think a lot up here, and our thoughts kind of maybe spin around, pull us into the future, they take us into the past, but they don't necessarily allow us to get really present and really be present in our own body, even to feel at home in our body. And so trauma sensitive yoga, it kind of fills that need. It allows us to start thinking about and bringing our attention into our physical body, noticing sensation in our body. And it also helps us to, gives us opportunities to make choices using our own body. So that's a little bit about me. And you can look at some of the other recordings to actually do a trauma sensitive yoga class if you'd like. And I'm happy to answer any questions. You can email me at ericbrianmccabe@gmail.com.